The person you love opened up to their father about you this morning. What they said is something you need to hear. Something about this morning felt different before a single word was spoken. The sun had barely climbed over the rooftops when the person you love found themselves standing outside their father's front door, holding a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. They had rehearsed this conversation countless times, yet now every sentence seemed to disappear the moment they reached for it. Their father noticed immediately. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. There was a silence that carried more meaning than any explanation ever could. Then came a quiet invitation. Sit down. 2 simple words. But in the next few minutes, something long hidden finally found its way into the open. Stay close, because one unexpected sentence changed the entire direction of that conversation, and by the end of this story, you'll understand why it matters more than anyone realized. The room felt almost frozen in time. Family photographs lined the shelves. Morning light stretched across the wooden floor. A clock ticked softly in the background as if counting every heartbeat. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Then your person slowly smiled, though it was the kind of smile people wear when they're trying to hold together emotions that have been building for far too long. Their father leaned forward with patient eyes and asked a question so gentle it almost disappeared into the silence. Who's been on your mind lately? That single question unlocked everything. Your person looked down, laughed nervously, and admitted there was someone they couldn't stop thinking about. Someone whose presence had quietly changed the way they looked at every ordinary day. They described moments they had never shared before. The unexpected happiness. The unanswered questions. The strange feeling that every future plan somehow included the same face without ever trying. Their father didn't interrupt. He simply listened. Really listened. And what happened next revealed something no one expected. There's still one detail hidden beneath this conversation, and you'll want to hear it before it's gone. For a long moment, the older man remained completely still. Then he smiled in a way only someone with years of experience could. He didn't rush to give advice. He didn't tell dramatic stories about the past. Instead, he quietly asked, when you talk about this person, why do your eyes become brighter? That question caught your person completely off guard. They paused, searching for an answer that finally arrived without effort. Because when I think about them, they admitted softly, I don't imagine perfection. I imagine peace. I imagine becoming. He leaned back, folded his hands, and shared a perspective that would leave your person speechless, a perspective about timing, courage, and the difference between simply missing someone and truly recognizing their place in your life. The next few moments would reveal the heart of that message, and that's where this story takes an unforgettable turn. A quiet realization settled over the room before another word was spoken. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it carried the kind of weight that changes how someone sees their future. Your person's father looked toward the window for a moment, watching the morning breeze move the trees outside, before turning back with a calm expression. Most people spend years chasing excitement, he said softly. Very few recognize the person who brings them peace. Those words lingered in the air. Your person didn't answer immediately because they knew those words described exactly what had been growing inside them. They admitted that every time life became overwhelming, every accomplishment, every disappointment, every unexpected moment somehow made them wonder what you would think. They confessed they had tried to ignore those feelings, believing they would eventually fade. Instead, they only became stronger. Every day seemed to place another quiet reminder in front of them. Stay with this, because one unexpected question from their father uncovered a truth your person had been hiding even from themselves. Their father leaned forward with a thoughtful smile and asked, "If this person walked through that door right now, would you tell them everything you've just told me?" The room fell completely silent. Your person's confident expression disappeared. Their eyes drifted toward the floor again. After what felt like forever, they whispered, "I don't know if I'd have the courage." Their father smiled kindly, not because he found the answer amusing, but because he understood it perfectly. "Then your biggest challenge isn't love," he replied. "It's believing your own heart deserves to be heard." Those words landed deeper than anything else that morning. For the first time, your person realized they had spent more energy imagining what could go wrong than imagining what could go right. In that instant, the conversation stopped being about fear and started becoming about possibility. Before the next part unfolds, if this story has touched something inside you, consider sharing it with someone who believes in meaningful conversations like this. And if you'd like to stay for more stories that explore moments people rarely talk about, you're always welcome here. But don't go anywhere yet, because the most surprising part of this morning hasn't happened. Just as your person stood to leave, believing the conversation had reached its end, their father quietly called them back. "One more thing." Those 3 words stopped them in their tracks. Without raising his voice, he said, "The people who truly matter rarely need perfect timing. They need honest timing." Your person stood there in complete silence as those words echoed through their mind. Suddenly, every excuse they had been carrying seemed smaller. Every delay seemed less convincing. Every reason for waiting began to lose its power. As they reached the front door, they glanced back one final time. Their father simply nodded, as if he knew a decision had already been made without another sentence needing to be spoken. Walking outside into the bright morning light, your person felt different than they had just an hour earlier. They weren't carrying certainty, but they were carrying courage. And before this day comes to an end, an unexpected encounter will test whether that courage is real or only temporary. What happens next changes everything in ways neither of them could possibly predict. The morning seemed ordinary to everyone else. Cars rolled past. Neighbors waved. The world moved exactly as it always had. But for your person, every sound felt sharper, every color brighter, every step heavier with purpose. They walked without rushing, replaying every word their father had spoken. The conversation wasn't fading, it was becoming clearer with every passing minute. Then something unexpected happened. Their phone vibrated. It wasn't a dramatic message. It wasn't a life-changing announcement. It was something so simple that most people would have ignored it. Yet the moment they saw it, they stopped walking altogether. It reminded them of you. Not because of what it said, but because of what it made them feel. Sometimes the smallest moments carry the loudest answers. Keep watching closely, because one ordinary decision is about to uncover a feeling your person can no longer keep hidden. They found a quiet bench overlooking a peaceful park and sat down, letting the morning unfold around them. Children laughed in the distance. Someone walked a golden retriever along the path. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh coffee from a nearby cafe. Everything looked calm, but inside, their thoughts were racing. They remembered the first conversation they ever had with you. They remembered details they had once believed were insignificant, the way your voice softened when you spoke about your dreams, the way you noticed little things other people overlooked, the strange comfort that always seemed to appear whenever you were part of the moment. Suddenly, they realized something that caught them completely off guard. They had never been searching for the perfect words to say to you. They had been searching for permission to be completely honest. Their father's advice hadn't given them new feelings. It had simply removed the fear surrounding feelings that had already existed. There's one moment still ahead that explains why this realization happened today, and not months ago. As the afternoon drew closer, your person stood up with a calm confidence that hadn't been there earlier. For the first time in a long while, they stopped imagining every possible outcome and started focusing on one simple truth: some conversations become more meaningful the moment they're spoken instead of postponed. They took a slow breath, looked toward the horizon, and quietly smiled to themselves. "No more pretending," they whispered. It wasn't a promise to anyone else. It was a promise to themselves. But just as they reached for their phone again, another unexpected interruption changed everything. Someone called their name from behind. The voice belonged to a person who knew a chapter of their past, and who was about to reveal a piece of information they had never expected to hear. What that person says next will completely reshape how your person sees you, and nothing after that will unfold the way they imagined. The voice behind them didn't sound urgent. It sounded familiar. Your person turned slowly, surprised to see someone they hadn't spoken to in quite some time. It was an old family friend, someone who had quietly watched different seasons of their life unfold without ever stepping into the middle of them. After a warm smile and a brief greeting, the conversation took an unexpected turn. "I ran into someone who mentioned you recently," the family friend said. Your person's curiosity immediately awakened. "Really?" they asked. The answer was calm, almost effortless. "Yes, and the way they spoke about you reminded me of someone who had finally stopped pretending." Those words landed with unexpected force. Your person couldn't help wondering whether the timing was simply coincidence or whether the universe had quietly arranged one more reminder before the day was over. Stay with this, because the next few minutes reveal a perspective your person never imagined hearing. The family friend continued with a thoughtful smile. "People often believe they're hiding what's in their heart," they said, "but the people who care about them usually notice long before they ever say a word." Your person laughed softly, shaking their head in disbelief. Was it really that obvious? The answer came without hesitation. Only to those who were paying attention. Suddenly, memories began connecting like pieces of a puzzle. Every time your name had appeared in conversation. Every smile they had tried to hide, every moment they had quietly changed the subject because their emotions felt too personal. None of it had gone unnoticed. Their father had seen it. This family friend had seen it. Even people who barely knew the full story had sensed that someone had become deeply important in their life. Before we continue, if stories like this make you reflect on the people who quietly shape our lives, consider sharing this video with someone who enjoys heartfelt moments, and subscribe if you'd like more cinematic stories that stay with you long after they end. Because one final conversation is about to reveal the peace your person has been searching for all along. As the afternoon light slowly turned golden, your person thanked the family friend and continued walking, but something inside had shifted once again. The fear that had followed them for so long no longer felt impossible to overcome. Instead, it felt like the last small door standing between them and the truth they wanted to live. They reached a quiet overlook where the city stretched into the distance and paused for a long moment. Then they unlocked their phone, opened your conversation, and stared at the screen without typing a single word. Their heart wasn't searching for the perfect message anymore. It was searching for the perfect moment to be completely sincere. Just as their fingers finally touched the keyboard, another notification appeared, one they never expected to receive. It carried information that connected directly to everything their father had told them that morning. The message was short, but its meaning was enormous. And what it revealed would become the beginning of a brand new chapter neither of you could have predicted. The notification didn't arrive with a dramatic sound. It appeared quietly, almost as if it didn't want to interrupt the moment. But the instant your person read the first few words, everything else around them seemed to fade into the background. They didn't smile right away. They simply stared at the screen, reading it once, then again. As though they wanted to be certain they hadn't misunderstood it. The message wasn't filled with grand promises or emotional speeches. Instead, it carried something far more powerful: clarity. It reminded your person that the moments people wait for are often much closer than they believe. They slipped the phone into their pocket, looked toward the evening sky, and took a slow breath. For the first time in a long while, they weren't asking themselves whether they should move forward. They were asking how they wanted that first honest step to begin. Don't look away now, because the next decision becomes the turning point of this entire story. They wandered into a small neighborhood cafe, the kind of place where conversations feel slower and the outside world seems to pause for a while. Choosing a seat by the window, they watched strangers greet one another with effortless warmth. It made them realize something unexpected. The strongest relationships rarely begin with perfect words, they begin with genuine ones. Their father's voice echoed once more, "Honest timing matters more than perfect timing." That sentence had become more than advice. It had become a compass. Your person opened the Notes app on their phone instead of your conversation. They began writing everything they had never found the courage to say. Not to send immediately, but to finally see their own feelings in front of them. Line after line appeared on the screen. Gratitude. Admiration. Quiet hopes for the future. Even the fears they had hidden from everyone else. When they finished reading it back, they realized something extraordinary. They weren't writing to convince you of anything. They were writing because the truth had finally become impossible to ignore. There's one final piece you haven't seen yet, and it changes the meaning of everything that happened this morning. As evening settled across the city, your person stepped outside carrying a sense of peace they hadn't felt in months. The streets glowed beneath soft lights, and the air felt calmer than before. They no longer believed that life was waiting for a perfect sign. They realized that the conversation with their father, the unexpected meeting afterward, the quiet reflections, and the surprising message had all been preparing them for one simple choice: to stop letting silence speak louder than their heart. They unlocked their phone one more time and looked at your name. This time, they didn't hesitate. A gentle smile appeared, not because they knew exactly what would happen next, but because they finally accepted that some of life's most meaningful moments begin with a single honest sentence. As their thumb hovered over the screen, another thought crossed their mind, one last truth their father had shared before they left that morning. The right people won't remember whether your first words were perfect. They'll remember that they were real. And with that thought guiding every heartbeat, your person prepared to take the step that could change both of your stories forever. Twilight settled gently over the city, and with it came a strange kind of calm. Your person stood still for a moment, phone in hand, listening to the quiet rhythm of the evening. The noise of the day had faded, but one thought refused to leave. Their father's words had followed them through every conversation, every memory, every unexpected encounter. Now there was nowhere left to hide from what they truly felt. They looked at your name once more and smiled, not because every uncertainty had disappeared, but because they had finally stopped waiting for certainty before choosing honesty. Sometimes the most important chapter begins when someone decides they no longer want fear to write the ending. Stay with this, because one final realization is about to reveal why this morning mattered far more than anyone understood. Instead of rushing to send a message, your person closed their eyes for a brief second and remembered something almost forgotten. They remembered the first time they realized you were different. It wasn't during a dramatic moment. It wasn't because of a grand gesture. It was something beautifully ordinary. The way you listened without interrupting. The way you celebrated small victories. The way you made difficult days feel lighter simply by being yourself. Those memories returned one after another, forming a picture that was impossible to ignore. Suddenly, everything their father had asked that morning made perfect sense. Why do your eyes become brighter when you speak about them? Because real affection doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It quietly becomes part of who you are. Your person laughed softly to themselves, realizing they had spent so much time searching for signs from the outside that they had overlooked the strongest evidence of all, the quiet certainty already living inside their own heart. Before this story reaches its destination, there's one last unexpected moment waiting just ahead. The evening breeze carried a peaceful silence as your person finally unlocked the screen one more time. Their fingers no longer hesitated. They began typing naturally, without rehearsing, without trying to sound perfect, and without worrying about saying exactly the right thing. Every word reflected who they truly were. It wasn't a confession designed to impress. It was simply honest. Before pressing send, they paused for one last heartbeat and remembered their father's final smile that morning, a smile that seemed to say, "You'll know when it's time." Looking at the message, they realized that time had quietly arrived. With calm confidence, they took a deep breath and made the choice they had been avoiding for so long. Whatever happened next would no longer be controlled by fear, but by truth. And somewhere beyond this very moment, a new conversation was waiting to begin, one capable of opening a future neither of you had imagined when this remarkable morning first began. A new day didn't begin with a dramatic announcement. It began with anticipation. The kind that quietly fills the space between one heartbeat and the next. Your person woke earlier than usual, not because an alarm demanded it, but because their mind had already traveled ahead to what might happen today. The message had been sent. The silence that followed no longer felt heavy, it felt meaningful. They made coffee, stood by the window, and watched the first rays of sunlight spread across the neighborhood. For the first time in a very long while, they weren't replaying old regrets. They were looking forward instead of